So we say bye-bye to another draft class, but before we completely put this sucker in the rearview mirror, we got to hand out some draft grades. I already did the NFC earlier today, so you can go check that video after this one because we're talking about the AFC. A special thanks to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Thank you for sponsoring today's video. Remember, promo code Broshmo when you sign up. But we're going to be starting with, let's move on to the AFC South. We're going to start with the Houston Texans, as they ended up not even having a first round pick, right? They end up trading out of the first round. Apparently they wanted Donovan Jackson with the first pick. He got snagged the pick before by the Minnesota Vikings, and they decided to trade down with a quarterback needy team like the New York Giants, who gave them a third round this year and a third round next year. Also gave them pick 34, which they then turned into Jaden Higgins, wide receiver at Iowa State. Luther Burden was on the board. I thought maybe go with him. He's a little bit different than what they currently have. Higgins was still like a top 5 wide receiver for me. I think he was either 5 or 6. I'm not mad at the pick. Now you just got 2 big wide receivers who can go up and provide catch radiuses of the size of a freaking garage door. So you got to love it. They do end up getting their offensive tackle of the future, hopefully, in Ariante Ursery. They did have to move up. It did cost them a third rounder, but that's fine. They already had acquired a third rounder in the trade back. So, and tackles were flying off the board. Like if they didn't get Ursery, I think one of the next tackles taken was like, again, I'm not Milam. He's a guard. Maybe Charles Grant at the back end of the third, I believe. I'm going to take a quick gander. Yeah, no, if they didn't take Ursery, it was going to be pretty slim pickings. So I think they made the right call there. Yeah, I think they made the right call. So I like that. That's just knowing the consensus board, knowing where you're at, what you need, and how to get it. They grabbed Jalen Noel in the third at pick 79. Funny enough, for a former teammate, not just Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson, who's on the roster as well, I believe. I think he's still there. So that's just kind of wild. You got a whole Iowa State wide receiver room. But they needed some speed. They needed someone that could stretch the field vertically with legit speed. He does that. He can do that from the slot. I like that they went out and were like, hey, we need a help. We need to address. We need to help our quarterback. We need to address whether it's offensive line or playmaker. And they did that. They would trade down a couple of times in the third round. They eventually get Jalen Smith, corner at a USC. Kind of feels like maybe he's corner depth, maybe a slot depth as well. This was higher than where I had him on the board. Little rich for me. Is what it is. He's a D'Amico Ryans guy. Just plays with that nasty demeanor. And then they moved up in the fourth. They end up trading what? They acquire 116 and a 7th because they had to trade up from the 6th round from pick 179. So they had to give a third next year to go get Woody Marks. That's not a good trade. What are we doing here? I love Woody Marks. This was too high for him. There are, in my opinion, better running backs on the board. And the trade is pretty offensive to take a player who, again, you take him at 116. I had him at 217. And you burnt a third round pick next year for that. I don't love that. But I do love Woody Marks, and I hope he proves me wrong. Jalen Reed ends up being good value, safety out of Penn State at pick 187. They go with Graham Mertz. Okay, sure. Backup quarterback. Hope he never sees the field. At 224, they grab Keontae Hamilton, more of a pass rusher, someone who's still developing his body. He showed up at Rutgers at 230 as a wrestler. Wrestled at Rutgers, by the way. And he has put on about 70 pounds. So he's still developing that anchor and that feel. So for now, very much a pass rush only player. Luke Lachey is good depth and good value at 255. All in all, good draft, not great draft. I got a little sticky icky here with Jalen Smith and Woody Marks. But I really like what they did at the beginning here. I'm going to say it's an above average draft. I'm going to give them a B. But they drafted players that have the chance to definitely make this a much better grade. Move on to the Indianapolis Colts. As Colts fans rejoice, you grabbed your king. They grabbed Tyler Warren. It was Tyler Warren or we riot. As a matter of fact, Colston Loveland went off the board prior to Tyler Warren. It was like destiny. The Colts were meant for Tyler Warren. And I like what they did at pick 45, JT Tuimoloau. He's I think a very high floor player with some good traits and good tools. So I'm like, okay, I'm digging this draft thus far. And this is the part where everything falls off a cliff. Then they select Justin Wally, corner out of Minnesota. I like Justin Wally. You know why? I like him so much. He made a video that I made prior to the draft, listing my top 10 deep sleepers for day 3. I liked Wally. I had him just outside of my top 200. You take him at 80. A little rich for me, a little rich. And then in the 4th, they end up going with Jalen Travis, tackle out of Iowa State. Again, tackles were kind of already flying off the board. You're looking around and you know what? Oh, that guy's long. He went to the Senior Bowl. I'm down. And I like Jalen Travis, former Princeton kid. He's very much, I think, a work in progress. To me, this was rich at 127. I had him closer to the 200s. So, yeah, we kind of fell off the rails there. But we got right back on. DJ Giddens, pick 151, had a top 100 grade on him. He's going to be a very good backup running back to Jonathan Taylor. You know, typically at the back end of the draft, I don't mind. Do whatever you want with your 6th, 7th round picks. I don't know why they got Riley Leonard. You already have Danny Dimes on the team. Why do you need Danny Dimes light? And listen, in my head, if this front office and coaching staff is going to be retained, it's Anthony Richardson or bust. If you're turning it over to Danny Dimes, he ain't saving anybody's job. So why are we drafting Danny Dimes light and Riley Leonard? Good college player, though. Tim Smith is your typical Alabama defensive lineman. He's going to stick around the league for a minute. Might jump around between teams, but he's a solid player. Hunter Wohler, safety out of Wisconsin, he's built to play around the line of scrimmage, whether that's at box safety or if you want to line him in the slot or as a dime backer. He thrives around the line of scrimmage. Very good in the run game. But at the end of the day, I like what they did with their first 2 picks. Fell off the rails. Okay, cool. I like the running back pick in 151, but all in all, it kind of feels like a below average. That's not true. A slightly above average draft. I don't think while things got a little sticky, I don't think it's enough to warrant a C. So I'm going to go with a B- because I do like the TJ Tuimoloau, the Tyler Warren pickups. While Justin Wally, while this was way higher than where I had him, he was a player I liked. I just liked better on day 3. And then Giddens, I thought was a good pickup as well. So we're going to go with a B-. Moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's actually quite a bit to talk about here with the Jacksonville Jaguars because they moved up. They moved up and acquired Travis Hunter. They paid a quarterback premium to make that move. But we can argue that when you're dealing with, I'm going to say it, a generational player, because we haven't seen a player of his type that was this dominant as a wide receiver and a corner in college football. You're dealing with a very rare two-way player who may legitimately be able to play two ways in the NFL. You just got to figure out what that snap count looks like. You're kind of betting on that. So they snag him. It cost them a first rounder next year, cost them a second this year, and obviously pick 5. I don't mind them taking that shot, taking that risk. I think that's okay. They end up grabbing Caleb Ransaw, corner out of Tulane. I hear he's going to be more of a safety. He could also play in the slot. I actually think the slot's where he fits best, but you could play him at safety as well because he's got really good athleticism. And to be fair, their safety room kind of sucks anyway. Then with the next pick, they grab Wyatt Milam, offensive tackle out of West Virginia. Now, it is important to note that they had pick 70 and they moved back, acquiring a third next year, 2 thirds next year, and pick 102, which they used to move up to 89 to grab Wyatt Milam. That's a good trade. I think they maneuvered the draft pretty well. They were able to rip off the Detroit Lions. I don't know what the Lions were doing. I hated their trades. But they were able to rip off the Lions, grab 2 thirds next year, and then 102, which you eventually turn into 89, which is Wyatt Milam. He's going to play guard for you. I like that pickup. He was 74 on my board. You get him at 89. At 104, you grab Bashol Tutin, running back out of Virginia Tech. A little bit of the lightning there. This is within the range. I'm fine with it. Jack Kaiser, this was earlier than I'd like, but this linebacker at Notre Dame, he moves well. He can maybe work in sub packages, but he's going to bring a lot of special teams experience, and that's a big plus. Round 6, I loved Jalen McLeod. He's a bit of a tweener. He can rush off the edge, but he's got less than ideal size. Doesn't have a ton of experience in coverage. He was more of a spot dropper, but a player I don't mind taking a shot on. He made my sleepers video, and the Jaguars didn't take him on day 2. Ryan Lane, the third out of Navy. I wasn't a big fan of his, but pick 200. I don't really care too much. Jonah Monaghan, I was a fan of his. He's got limited length, so he was always going to be a center, but he played all over the place for USC. Right on the right side, left side, guard, tackle. He did it all, but he is a center in the NFL with good movement skills. LaQuint Allen ends up being, I think, a pretty solid steal. I had him at 134. He goes at 236, and he gives you just everything in terms of being a pass catcher. He can pass block. He can pass catch. He's got a huge catch radius. Gives you the quarterback a big window to throw to. And he's a hard runner. Might not break a lot of tackles, but he won't stop churning the feet. At the end of the day, while it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around, that's not true, but it's a gamble. I think it's a gamble worth taking for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go with it being a B+. Giving up a first next year, I think it is a chance worth taking. So it looks like it's going to be Travis Hunter primarily playing wide receiver for the Jags, and that's A-okay. That's A-okay, because to me, he was probably wide receiver 1 in this class. He was up there, him and Tetero. You know what I would say? I would say he's wide receiver 1 in this class. And he was kind of uncontested corner 1 as well. So I get taking a shot on it. I get it. We got one more team in this division, and it's the Tennessee Titans, who we knew it. They were going to be, we've known it for over a month now. The Titans were taking Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. The Will Levis era is over, probably for the good thing. Brian Callahan gets to get his guy. Cam Ward was unanimously the top quarterback in this class. If you got the first overall pick, you typically want to swing on that quarterback position if you don't have an answer to it. It's the most vital position on a roster. I would argue Cam Ward was worth the top 10 pick. So I'm A-okay with that. And then they grab Femi Aladejo, edge out of UCLA. He has played linebacker primarily in college, whether it was at Cal or UCLA. And it wasn't till after the first 2 games of the year that the Bruins started playing him at edge. Not a lot of body fat on this dude. He was raved about around the Senior Bowl. At the Senior Bowl, he kept winning. I thought he was Donovan Ezeraku for a minute because they were wearing the golden helmets. I think he was 5 and Ezeraku was 6. And when you're in the stands, it's hard to tell numbers. Every time I was like, Ezeraku, another win. Oh, wait, that's Oladejo. Who is this guy? I got to watch him. Massive Senior Bowl. Very good athlete. Still needs to polish up. Again, he's been playing off-ball linebacker primarily for the better part of his career. But he is moving in the right direction. And just, again, a player you want on your team. There was nothing but praise about how he brought the energy to just everybody. I do like this. I got to mention the trade here because they traded back from 35, got to 52, which they used on Oladejo, but they got a 3rd rounder. They were missing a 3rd round pick in this class, and they got one, and they used it on Kevin Winston Jr., who was safety 3 for me in this class. I had a top 50 grade on him. Extraordinary value. I think he was one of the safest players you could have taken in this draft class. Didn't have a missed tackle in 2023. Oh, what about 2024? He got hurt with a partially torn ACL that he tried to play through in the 2nd game of the year. So he was kind of out of sight, out of mind for people. He's a hell of a good safety. When we got to day 3, you could honestly... So they got Chim DK, wide receiver out of Florida at 103. This was a little earlier than where I had him. But in hindsight, if you look at where they got Alec Iamaner, wide receiver out of Stanford, who fell probably because of some knee concern. He had some knee injuries early in his career at Stanford. And then, might as well get into it. He tore his ACL his senior year of high school. And then his freshman year at Stanford, he tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Had a red shirt. Hasn't been a problem in the last 2 years for him. I'm just putting that out there. That's why I'm thinking he may have fell. But if you switch Iamaner with DK, I'm okay with it. I really am. So I like that they're getting wide receivers. You get a lot of speed with a DK who might be a slot only. And then Iamaner, who is more of a prototypical X that can win downfield. Gunnar Helm, solid pick at 120. He's Jared Wiley to me, so cool. He's a good tight end too. And then in the 5th round, they just grabbed players that I liked. I love Jackson Slater, guard/center out of Sacramento State. He ends up going at 167. He was at 117 on my big board. I think at some point he might be a starter for this team. Love the movement skills. Very tough player. Marcus Harris. Fun fact, he made my sleeper video and they took him in the 6th round. I love it. He could play outside. Maybe they play him at safety. They list him here as a safety. But I think he could probably play outside in the slot. Maybe he can play safety. Regardless, another guy with ball skills in that impressive Cal defense this past season. And then Kalel Mullins, running back out of Michigan. He's a former linebacker, a lot of special teams experience. And he's just kind of a bruiser at running back. I think there's a lot of ways he makes this team. So at the end of the day, I looked at it, I was like, you know what? This is a hell of a good draft. It really, really is. It ticked a lot of boxes for me. They drafted a lot of players that I liked. I was looking and they didn't reach on anybody. If anything, they got some good value in guys like Iamaner and Slater and Kevin Winston Jr. That was a good trade. This is in my opinion, one of the best classes, and you got your quarterback of the future. It's an A+. A+ grade for the Tennessee Titans. I came away very happy.